Are you done yet? The podcast brought to you by Innovative E, tackling your work management challenges, a Microsoft Gold partner.
Hi, I'm Mike Taylor, President of Innovative E. Welcome to Are You Done Yet? Our new podcast series. I have with me today Bryan Quick.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm really
I'm doing
happy to
great.
be here kicking off this new podcast series or video cast series. I'm not sure what you call it, but you're gonna see our faces and you're gonna hear from us as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So today's episode is going to be about this new time we live in, being early April 2020. Everyone now is kind of in what we're calling a forced virtualization, if you will. Many people already work at home. Many more people are, almost everyone is trying to work and school from home. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. But maybe you can set up kind of this series in general, Bryan, and tell everybody a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, you ever been in a project meeting, Mike, where you're the project manager and there's people seated at the table, everybody's got their laptop, they're all emailing each other. Maybe they're a little bit distracted by what's going on, and they don't really want to be in your project meeting that you're having.
All the time.
And you're basically going around the room and you're saying, "Are you done yet?" Well, you're never really done, are you?
That's right. Nope. Yeah, even if you're done with a task or a section, there's always something else on the next piece. And many times when you're into these kinds of things, there's a lot more to it, and that's where you have to dive into it in those kind of meetings. And and there's tools and processes and everything else. So those are areas we'll explore.
So it's like this convergence of project and what we're calling work management, which is the smaller stuff that you're doing every day, and really the all-up approach of trying to get and make decisions on that data, right? So it's not just about having a particular project with a tool to manage that does X, Y, and Z, and then everything else. Organizations are trying to get insight into everything that's going on because the boundaries of what is and isn't a project are sort of breaking down a little bit in today's work environment. So we're gonna explore these concepts. You know, we're both project managers. We've been in IT for quite a while. We talk to customers every day. We're going to have guests come in to give their perspective on the current situation with work management and project management out there. We're going to talk to other people, customers, other vendors, partners, colleagues of ours in the space, and you know, we hope you join us. We hope we give you some insight into how you can take these things back to your office. And then, bam, COVID-19 happened, right?
That's right.
Now we're all stuck at home. Some of us are used to it, though. We've been doing it for quite a while.
Yeah. Innovative E is, we put out some information on this. We've actually been pretty much a virtual organization from the get-go. So for over 15 years, we've been working in different locations. Even though we have some office space, there's been a lot of work from home and working virtual. We do deliver for our customers in that manner. So while we do on sites for requirements and training and those kind of things, the vast majority of our work has been remote. But now we're not just like in my case, and I know in your case, Bryan, your primary office location is your home. You now have a lot of other people working in your office space.
A few more challenges that
more challenges.
You could say, yeah. So as we speak, my kids are all home. 4 kids under 12, and it's a loud house. There's barking dogs, there's chirping birds, and there's sometimes wrestling and fighting and roughhousing going on outside my office. People just walk right in. They feel like if Dad's here that they can ask him what's going on, or can I play Roblox, or whatever that case may be. And I'm sharing bandwidth where I wasn't sharing that before, and they're all kind of on their devices. We're having to deal with a lot of that. So even though I'm used to working from home, I have a whole new set of challenges. Can you imagine like what it's like for somebody who's used to commuting, going to an office every day? Not only are they challenged with how the heck do I do this? I have to clear out a space, but all these other things that us work from home veterans are also facing.
Right. And like you said, even though we have some additional challenges, we're pretty much in the groove of doing this kind of thing. But yeah, we have the fortunate, first of all, I'd like to say we're very fortunate in our industry that we can continue to work. There's a lot of people who've been displaced, and I feel very bad for them. and trying to do everything we can in our communities to help those folks. So there's that's going to be an ongoing thing for a long time. But we're very fortunate that we do, since we already operated this way, our customers, some of them were already virtual, some of them have gone virtual. So we continue to have these meetings. So over the last 3 weeks, we've heard some of these exact challenges that you're talking about. Some people who, one of our customers at a major health provider, they were an office worker, not an hospital worker. So they were all sent home. And she was telling us that she actually had to literally take her desktop PC and unplug it and the monitor
Yeah.
and load it into her car and take it home, find a place for it, set it up, figure out how to get on the internet. She said, actually, then a different customer was telling us that they realized that several of their people didn't actually have broadband access at home. And who would have thought that in today's environment? So there's all kinds of challenges and things that are going on. But interestingly enough, people are actually examining some of these tools as well. And so we actually, even another customer started asking us, we were doing a project online implementation for them. And they said, well, now that we're all virtual, we're trying to manage some of this work that's not the project work that you guys are helping us with. So just as a side conversation, can you tell us a little bit about how Planner works for just some task management and some things like this? So it's forcing people to think a little differently in terms of how they're managing their work all up. And I think this is starting to go, it must be resonating, because we did see a post from Angela Byers, the head of the product team, on Planner for that exact thing, how they use it. So we're seeing folks that are examining new ways to do work, many reasons because they've been forced to, right? And so they're like, man, how do I handle this kind of task management stuff that's not really a project, but now that we're virtual and I can't go, hey, Joe, who's sitting next to me, and say, where are you at with this? Or are you done yet? I have to figure out how to put it all in one place. And Planner's a great tool for that. And so we see people that are doing that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's forcing the issue for a lot of these folks that have kind of been lagging behind in the work from home space, companies that have been kind of reluctant to do it. I remember a long time ago, I put a work from home strategy together at another company that I worked for. And that seems like ages ago, but I think we're just kind of going through that for some of these industries that are kind of weren't on the forefront of that trend. And you said it like 2 weeks ago, this is forcing the issue. Life is never going to be the same again.
No.
Because it does work to work from home. I mean, you get more done personally, you get more done professionally once you kind of get orientated and situated to it. There are challenges, getting the routine set, knowing when to turn it off, kind of a new reality of blending business with family.
Mm-hmm. Very much.
So, people are going to be leaning on these tools more and more. And what was it I heard the other day that Microsoft had like a 700%
increase in
Teams usage?
Yeah.
That's mind-boggling considering the numbers that were already there. And that's just with Teams. There's a ton of other tools out there that do something similar, and I'm sure they're dealing with the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's a new reality. It's a forced virtualization. I called it the land of lost proximity. So
very good. Land of the lost. That goes way back.
So we're all going to be dealing with this for a couple of weeks. I think we'll get a few episodes in during this period while we kind of work through the curve, as they call it, nationally here, and we're all kind of confined to our homes. So it's kind of an interesting time to be in the work management space, and so we'll try to impart sort of our perspective on these things. Really, more broadly speaking, we've been hearing a lot from our customers about, I want to use Teams now that I'm working from home. How do I do that? Or what's the right tool for the job? So we talk a lot about Planner, Teams, Project for the web. We're really kind of Microsoft focused in that stack. Then you've got things like Power Automate and the Power Platform coming into play here. Yep. So we're trying to figure this all out ourselves, and then when we do, impart that on our customers.
Right. Yeah, and we've actually done, and we'll make these resources available. We've started a new knowledge center. It's called Connect. It's KNEC Connect, and we've actually these assets of some of these. We've done now 2 webinars that are kind of on the because of this forced virtualization. We started with the work from home one, so we've got that asset out there. So that's on the page. And we just did one yesterday that you and one of our other colleagues, Josh, helped show, how you use a couple of the Microsoft tools. The kind of the lower, and at the beginning level, it's kind of like Planner, which is better than To-Do List, but not quite where you would go with like Project. And then you demoed Project for the web, which takes even a step further and allows you to do things with dependencies and resources assignments, things like that. So we're making these resources available as well.
Yeah. So Mike, if I were kind of to put myself in other people's shoes that haven't been sort of using innovative tools for work management, and you know where I'm at, I'm in email. I'm in email as a work management tool. So I can't imagine a worse work management tool than an email inbox. But we've all been there and done it. I think it was a while ago where I was kind of depending on my inbox as my to-do list,
right?
Where, you have the task in Outlook, you have the task, you can mark things as to do. But I was even depending on that email box to go down the list of things I needed to do that day. Why is that bad?
Oh, that's bad for a number of reasons. Because we've all been there, and to a certain extent, I have to limit myself. This is a habit I've tried. I have to continually force limit myself to only go to my inbox a few times, maybe once an hour or something like that. One of the reasons I find that it's bad is because it takes you away from any kind of strategic focus. So you're not, from a task. We all work task all the time. In fact, one of the things that, just to digress for a second about one of the reasons we think this series is so important is there's been a lot of studies about work management. And since the 50s, when information workers outnumber blue collar hands-on workers, 60-70% of the population now is information workers. The vast majority of that work now has become more project focused because we've automated things like inventory management and things like that. So task management, work management, project focused type work, things that are not defined by operations or that are already automated, are a vast majority of what us information workers and most workers are doing these days. So to that end, like I said, now we're back to the question you asked me, email, why is it bad to manage email? So one of the things that I find, if I let myself stay email centric, is that you're very reactionary, right? Whatever's at the top of the box that comes in, you're looking at it and you're saying, do I need to take action on that? Or something comes in and there's something that's on your list that you've written down or you're managing in Planner or somewhere else that's a high priority item, but now you get distracted because this one piques you. And sometimes it piques you emotionally, right? It can be something that comes in from a colleague.
And
you're like, I got to get on that right now, right? And it completely sidetracks you from what you're trying to do, strategically and the things that you have to get done. So, so one of the things I try to do is every day is I try to write down what are my big rocks to accomplish today and for the week, and I revisit that every week. And the big rocks for the week go to the next section. But I try to do that
with that list, those things. Yeah. Try not actually to look at the email box until you've looked at those things.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah. So in this world of work management, Mike writes things down.
I do actually.
And so do I. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
The big rocks are on one side and the tasks are on the other.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's first of all, it's a lot easier when you're on a call to write something down real quick on a piece of paper, especially if you're sharing video with a customer or colleague or something like that. You want to just jot something down.
Or even in a meeting. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I share my screen a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So how am I going to share my screen and click around on a demo or something like that, and also make a note in Notepad or OneNote?
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Which is an interesting tip that I think we probably came on that we didn't even discuss ahead of time. Is there is a place for paper, right?
There is.
Or a separate device if you wanted to do it on a separate device, an iPad or a separate Surface or something where you could take your notes. That'd be great. But it's hard to be using your primary machine, and because most of the time we're either on video or we're sharing our screens, like you said, so there's no real way to do it from your primary machine. And some of our colleagues have tried to do it, and just like 6 months ago, I was talking to one of our project managers, and they were saying, I really struggle with trying to do the internal notes and then sharing the stuff with our customer that we're trying to review and try to do it all on my device. And it's like, but you really can't do it that way. I mean, you just have to either write it down or have a separate device. Then there's things like, there's ways that you can take pictures of it and put it in Office and things like that. There's some tools that can help you with that. But that's a it's kind of a best practice that works for me anyway.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So with the email, you're right. It's reactionary, right? You're going down the list and you're basically responding to other people's priorities.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's not, those aren't necessarily the things you wanted to get done today.
Exactly.
They're other people's priorities. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You get that little alert coming, that box coming down. You see something, like when I see something from you, Mike, I jump up and down. I just make sure that I got to answer that right away. Right.
So I got to be careful.
But you just said that I don't have to read your email, right?
That's not exactly what I said. Don't let me take you off task, is what I said. If you got something you're working on for a customer.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, so looking at that, I mean, like, what are some alternatives to email? And what are kind of some email strategies that you found have been effective?
Well, on the email strategies, like I said, number one is I try to limit my how often I'm checking the email. Yeah. So it's probably a couple times an hour that I go on, but it's always up. So if something I do feel I need to be involved in case there's some kind of customer emergency or something, and that little thing pops up and I see it. But I also try most of the time when I see those things come in, I don't respond to them immediately unless it is some kind of emergency, which is very rare, maybe once every couple weeks or something. So that's one strategy. I think another is I do use the task within email to organize, and I'll mark things, flag them as high priorities, but I try to only do that with the things that are really important to make sure that I see it in that task list that's up there. So I'll know when I open up email, these are the things, when I am in that space, that's what I use. Right. As far as other things that I use Planner. I use my notes that I work from. And then, of course, we use Teams quite a lot, right? So there's an awful lot of communication that goes on in our company in Teams. Yeah. And so a lot of things. Yeah, and it's actually really helpful to centralize. More and more our work is being centralized in that environment. So, for example, you'll send me something and you'll do the @Mike, and it'll be something you want me to review or something like that in Teams, and all I have to do is click on it, and I'm right there, and I'm working in the artifact. So it's not like an email attachment that comes in, I open it, now it's locally in my machine. Now I got to go save it or send it back to you or something. I mean, right. It really makes that work management process much more streamlined. So, right. And then with the fact that, most of these or all of these Microsoft products now, pretty much the Office products, you can do the co-authoring and things like that. So sometimes I'll open up a document or something or a PowerPoint or something that you send me or somebody else sends me, and then I'll notice that you might be in there editing at the same time, and we can work on it at the same time. And for those who aren't familiar with co-authoring, we've been demoing and working this way back to the SharePoint days, 10 years ago when it first came out and started working. Right. This is a really important tip, though. If you haven't done it from a virtualization standpoint, or even if the person's sitting next to you and you're working in the same document, don't forward documents around. Don't do that. Please
stop doing that. Please stop forwarding documents around as attachments. Yeah. Making changes and then attaching the document with your changes back to the same loop. That's please stop doing that. It's like that, if you are still doing that, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. and that is, there's best practices and there's tips, but that's one that, I'm with you. I feel very strongly about. And even to this day, if somebody sends me, if it's internal, and it almost never happens because everybody knows what I'm going to do. If they send me an attachment, I'll send it back to them and say, where's this posted? So, because we all work on these documents and these artifacts together. Put it somewhere and send me the link. Put it into Teams, put it in a file repository or SharePoint repository, whichever we have that's the appropriate place, and send it to me, and then we'll work on it. Because otherwise things get lost, right? You start chasing it down, and email hell is that repository that takes things away from a central place. Right. We can do all this stuff in a central place, and Teams really has become our go-to for doing all this work.
Yeah, so if there's one thing that I think is a target for taking out of email and putting into Teams, it's the documents and the co-authoring and centralizing the location of those docs. That really works well. I mean, we've been accelerating in Innovative E about using that, and I think it saved us a whole bunch of time.
So on the I'm sorry, I wanted to finish the thought on the co-authoring. Yeah. One of the things I started to say that when we started demoing this stuff years ago when it first became available, SharePoint Online, then Office, we actually talked to people about it actually being almost like a time machine. because when I first found the real value of co-authoring is like if we were working on a customer proposal or a deliverable deadline that had to be done at a certain point in time, and we needed multiple contributors to it, and you're up against this deadline, and inevitably in every organization, you're going to you're trying to put out the best product possible, so you're going to work right up to that deadline. Even if you plan and start way in advance, you're finding things and ways to tweak it, and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people working on this thing. If you can't co-author it, then you have to send it, or you have to point to a file repository. They open it. Your version, you're trying to worry about version history and everything else. But literally, if you think about it, if you had 10 people that had to edit a document and each one needed an hour to do it, if they took an hour and passed it on, that's 10 hours of duration. If you all could get in there and do it in 1 hour, you've saved 9 hours.
It's amazing.
So that's why I said it's like a time machine. It really does. It really does streamline the efficiency of the team to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's a really powerful thing.
It is a really powerful thing. When I'm in there in teams, and we've talked about this, as well as that co-authoring works, you have to be sort of like you launch the Word document in Teams in the browser, right? And that just is falling short. The capabilities of the in-browser editing within Teams, it's kind of wonky. I always end up launching it in full Word, as you do as well. Yeah, and it's a couple of extra steps to do that, but that's the only way to go. It doesn't work really in browser. Now, what's interesting about that is it's not because I'm offline and I want to make changes that I'm putting it in full desktop. So if they put more things into that browser editing capability and they worked on improving that, I would very rarely have to launch Word.
Right. Yeah, I think at this point in time, though, I think that's an advantage of the Microsoft platform is you do have the ability to launch it, and it retains not only the full client experience, but you also have the ability to continue to do things like the co-authoring. It works in both of those, cache local documents, and it's saving it in the central repository. So, I'm like you. I'd love to see some of these things improve to be as feature rich as it is with a full desktop app. But in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that's the first thing we always do, and I'll do that. You've seen me do it. Somebody on our team will be trying to edit it in the Teams web interface, and I'll go just open it.
Just open it up. You gotta open it up.
They won't do it without just stop, go open it, because the full feature is just not there. And you're going to end up saving some time, even though it takes a couple extra steps. So there's another best practice for folks there is use the full feature.
And the inline commenting, on that editing capability, when you are in the browser, there's inline comments, so you can see the history of the comments. That's pretty cool because you're basically giving somebody context to the changes you made. I really like that.
Absolutely.
We hear a lot from our customers about, when do we start a new team and when do we do a channel and things like that. And really, there's not one way to do it, right?
Right.
So what do you think the best advice we give to customers about how we've set it up and what's working to impart that on them? Like what we have is, we have a marketing team, we have a sales team, we have an engineering team. We have a couple of other teams laid out. It's really departmental, isn't it?
Right, it really is. And so this goes back, and we've had some of these conversations, and to use a term that I like to use that Bryan uses sometimes, is sausage making. So we're going to let you guys in on a secret. We don't have it perfectly laid out. We've done, over the years, we've helped people with SharePoint governance and information architecture and all those kinds of things. For teams, we've kind of organically evolved, and we've used some of the best practices we've learned. So the best practice that we're using right now might not apply for other organizations, but what we've done is we've made people who are heads of these departments, like you're head of sales, so you own the teams for sales. So everybody knows to go to you if they need a new channel. You'll create a new channel and say, yeah, we're going to do that. So we've done that for delivery and for projects and other things that we have, like at a department level. We have about 60, 70 people that are using it. Would this scale? It might have a problem scaling if you had 600 or 6,000.
Yeah.
Because you might start to get a little bit of the chaos and Wild Westness. So what we've seen and what we'd probably recommend there is actually taking a more formal information architecture, teams architecture strategy, and also folding that in with our team's adoption strategy. so that people, some of the things that you're doing to make sure that adoption and ease of use are kind of a seesaw, right? It, if you make it super easy, everybody will adopt it up front until if it gets out of control, then they'll quit adopting it, and the seesaw will go the other way. So there's ways you can do that, and that's actually something we can help you with, and we have some partners that we work with that are really good at the kind of the information architecture and the adoption planning and strategy, and that gets into even more complex things, like if your organization has a lot of compliance and regulatory requirements around retention management, records management, maybe even geo isolation for if you want to keep it in, these and Teams and the Microsoft platform support this capability really well, especially with some third-party add-ins and things like that. So there's a lot of cool things you can do there, so that you can get into a whole strategy there if you're in a large organization. Smaller organizations, I definitely think just letting the managers of the different departments do their thing is the way to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that's good advice. What else do you like about Teams? Have you been changing any other kind of work habits because we've started using it?
The video, what has now been the conferencing capabilities, which used to be Skype. At first in Teams, I kind of thought, well, it seems like it's not quite as robust as what you had with Skype, but now they're adding a lot more features. You've got like the blur background. It's really easy.
Let's try the blur background. Just so
there you go.
Know what we're talking about. So blur my background. See? So if there's something like, you're in a weird space, you're in a coffee shop, you don't want the background, going on, or, you're working in your kitchen or, whatever.
Well, now with everybody being forced at home, I mean, like you were talking about having a dedicated workspace. I we've got some of our folks that they just don't have enough room to be able to do that. So they're literally in the same room, and there may be somebody behind them that's on the phone or doing homeschooling or something. So this blur thing actually can help take away those distractions.
I like to blur my background when I'm like working from the pool, Mike, in the backyard.
Yeah.
Just so I don't make other people jealous.
Yeah, there you go. In your Florida. Snow still melting up north.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of a neat feature, and it's something that it's really probably useful for folks that are kind of faced with the new reality of virtualization. Yeah. So another area, that folks are finding, is that there's so many different tools on the Microsoft stack in Office 365, and they're kind of discovering these tools. So let's talk about Planner for a minute. So Planner, I use that when I need to. It's not really for me and to keep track of stuff that I want to do, because I have my list, or I have, that's really what Microsoft To Do is for. I track tasks in Outlook sometimes, but Planner is really like if I need to coordinate with a small group of people and work with them, or we need to work on things together and work toward a common goal. That's where Planner really comes into play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, just this morning I was on with one of our folks, and we decided that there was a small project we were working on. It was really just a set of tasks, and we had I hate to admit it, we had a spreadsheet where we launched this initiative, and we were just listing tasks out, right? But now we've kind of this thing is kind of going live, and it's becoming bigger. It's not big enough to justify using Project Online, but we decided to use Planner and the board piece for it. So we just created the buckets and these are all the backlog items we want to do. These are the work in process. This is the testing. This is the deployment. So, it's just a simple thing, but it's easy to go assign. People get, when you do the assignment, they get the notification. They've got a new thing. They can go to their board and see what they have to work on. So it works really nice for that kind of thing. And it can work for standalone things. We've also used it in conjunction with projects, right? So if you have like Project Online, and this is the example that the customer I was telling you about, and we were talking about. They're doing Project Online. They have a large deployment, relatively large. I think they have 300 people or something. But they have these tasks that don't justify putting them into a project.
You're never going to put everything in there.
Can't put everything in a project. That would be. That's a fool's errand to try to track everything that way, and create the dependencies and everything else. And I mean, that's for work that's aggregated into a logical chunk, and it's large enough to justify doing that. If you have smaller things that are going on, Planner is a great tool for doing that.
Yeah, you know what? Like when I was doing day-to-day project management, there was, always the project plan, and then there was the what I called action items, or the
Hmm.
things that came out of the status meeting, the things that were small, or somebody just had to do this or that, or help somebody out with something. And you're right, you never go back. You're not going to enter those into the project. Now, um, they do take time, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and they are taking away from something else that someone could be doing. So it's kind of a balance, but I always track those separately. If I were doing that in today's world, I would use Planner for those things, hands
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. And the way I've seen, we've done it in the past, I've done it in the past, you probably have done the same thing. When you're managing multiple resources and getting into a little more complex,
Mm.
concept here, but what you can do is you can say, well, we've got this pool of resources that are available for projects, and then you can decrement their availability over in the project side to a percentage, 20 or 30% for all this other kinds of work. And then you
Yeah,
can track that kind of work in tools like Planner or Project for the Web, and then you can aggregate it there.
yeah, that's a good one. And kind of to come full circle on that conversation too, you can embed a document in a Planner plan item,
Yes.
which is then co-authorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yep.
if you're working on something together, or you're working on a requirements document, or something you need to produce, and that is attached to a task on a planner board, you can co-author it right from there. That is really nice.
Yep, that really is. And the other thing you can do, as you mentioned, or Josh mentioned yesterday, is you can take that whole planner plan and you can put it into a team site, whether it's a team site that has multiple plans or it's just part of that initiative that you're working on. So now you can have your communications, you can have, chats that are all relevant to that body of work.
Yeah, you put it in the Teams channel as a tab.
Hmm.
The
Yep,
tabbing in Teams and those channels is very powerful to be
it
able to
really
pull
is.
in different things. And we pull in Power BI there, we pull in Planner, we pull in Project,
Hmm.
and you can do different things. Even non-Microsoft tools can be pulled into those channel tabs.
Yeah.
That's really a powerful feature. That's something that we use every day.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teams really is becoming it all comes back to Teams all the time, right? The
It just
conversation
really does.
ends up coming
It's
back to
really,
Teams.
I couldn't live without it at this point. It's become really core
It
to
really has.
my daily work environment. And I think at first everybody was like a little bit too used to like Skype for Business, or and
SharePoint.
the IMing and things like
Hmm.
that. And there are some drawbacks of Teams. And one of the ones that we find the most frustrating is like when we're on a call and then we want to go to a document. It feels like we end up having to go back and dig through the whole team to find the document, and then you want to flip back to the call, you have to go do it again. You have to go
Right.
find that thing again.
Yeah.
That's a little bit weird.
Yeah, and
um,
it minimizes the call too. So you
yeah,
have to go, the call gets small and then they're looking in the team site for this stuff. So yeah, there's some improvements I'm hoping they'll make.
yeah, me too. But on the whole, I'm pretty happy and excited about it. I really do think that they're right about a lot of the ways that they thought people would want to work, and give them that flexibility within teams. There is a balance there about like sort of the organic growth of teams, like you were saying earlier, and the organizational kind of content, um, wanting to structure the content,
Right.
from an organizational standpoint. And really, it's almost there's almost a conflict there,
There
and
is.
I
There
think a lot
is.
of
There's a
folks are
natural
doing.
conflict.
Yeah,
And it has a lot to do with scale, I think, and what we've seen.
right, right. So a couple of other things, that I was, wanting to talk about today. We've kind of covered the gamut in a lot of ways. Um, how about this, Mike? I think we all kind of went through this cycle where we all, bought into and advocated and are still part of the PMI community, where
Yep.
a project has a start and a finish. And there's things and activities and tools that help manage that project management process. And I think that's still, largely true, like the whole thing, right? I
Right.
don't think anything's being debunked at this point. But what I think is from my perspective, I think what's really happened is that the tool sets that were used for that process were different tools
Right. Right.
than the rest of the work that was going on. And we were trying to segment that out. But
Right.
now I think there's a recognition that the same tools can be used for everything,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, across
so
the board.
how are we kind of seeing that play out? I think maybe that's a point of discussion.
Yeah, this is probably
That's
going to
it,
be.
isn't it? That's the
It's,
one. That's
yeah,
the
it's probably going to go into probably other episodes as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, this idea that work management, I think over time, especially in the more, like you said, you mentioned PMI, so kind of the more regimented, certified kind of way of doing things. It started out being very waterfall. You had to do this before that, and these kinds of things. And that still applies in many things. I mean, you can't build a house by having, getting 100 workers to stand around and, 3 people start working on the
with
foundation.
social distancing,
Well, yeah, you can't do that right now anyway, right? But when you can,
Yeah.
virtual house, right?
Yeah.
You don't want everybody sitting around. So what ended up happening is people started using a lot more agile type of things, and that's really big in the dev spaces and a lot of our customers and communities. But I think what's happening now is there's a recognition that it's really both, and even PMI has embraced it. And they've, I think about a year and a half ago, they came out with the Agile supplement to the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. So you've got this recognition that there's this all-up work going on, and what you mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, and it's one of the things that'll be a refrain that we'll keep talking about is, what's really key, what most organizations can't do, is visualize all the work that's going on, or harmonize the work that's going on with one set of tools here, like maybe it's Azure DevOps that they're doing, their development, and they're doing all their sprints and all those kinds of things and code management over there. But they still need the capability to be able to say, all right, which projects are when? When did it begin? When did it end? Maybe there's some financial components to it. Maybe there's some portfolio planning pieces to it. So the ability to start joining this up and then being able to use a visualization tool like Power BI to put this information together. What work management really is all about at the end of the day is doing things more effectively, more efficiently, better cost management, all these kinds of things. So, the one of the key tenets there is visibility creates opportunity. So if you can see issues earlier or potential problems, whether it's you're running too much time, you're running over budget, scope is changing, those kinds of things. If you can see those earlier in the process and you can get the information, and getting that information is done in a way that doesn't require you chasing your tail all the time. I mean, what most people, you and I have experienced this for years and years and years, and our customers tell us this every day we get on calls, and one of the first things they say is, we just spend all day looking for data, right? Kind of like the email thing. Why not use email? Because you're over there searching your email for the last status report, and then which one is the right one? Was it the one I sent Brian, or is it the one I sent Joe, or is it, so chasing information becomes a lot of what project managers and just work management are doing. So if you can get that process more streamlined and get it into common sets of tools and then be able to report on it, then that information becomes actionable. We've had customers that have seen this, and it really changes the paradigm, because you go from where are we really? What's the truth? Because this information's everywhere, to we have confidence in the truth here on this dashboard that's pulling from different areas. And now what do we do about it? So now you focus your brain power, your human capital and energy on solving problems rather than chasing information. And at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest advantages for all of this work management stuff, right? I mean, that really changes the whole paradigm of how people go about managing their work.
Wow, that's really powerful stuff. So we feel like these tools should be the right tool to use. That should only be enough for what you want to get done, right? So if you want to distribute tasks to people and co-author documents, use Planner. If you need a project management tool that has a scheduling engine component to it, but you're sort of just tipping your toe into the project management sphere, Project for the Web is probably the right one for you. But if you need to do portfolio, project management, resource management, we still have that Project Online component. But no, Mike, I think we like where Microsoft's going with the whole thing. They have a unique opportunity and sort of to solve this problem. Because if all of the different kinds of work are going on in the respective tool that's right-sized for that, the rigor that's needed for that particular thing, but it's all going into on a centralized platform, then we're going to be able to do what you just said. We can get insight into the data that's going on in that platform. We can get a reporting dashboard about what's happening, maybe even something consolidated with all
Right.
of the action items and ad hoc work alongside the project and the dev activities in one place. That's really the vision, and that's what we try to do for our customers. Is what we're hearing more and more about that. So that's going to be, I think, where we're going to spend the vast majority, I think, of our time and energy in the next few years.
Yeah, I
For
think
sure.
so too. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. The fact that the platform's there and the platform has all these applications we talk about, but the more important piece is, as you mentioned, it's the underlying data constructors.
Right.
And with Microsoft's new, well, it's not so new, but the whole CDS and the Power Platform and the components and being able to put everything into a common data structure, and what they're now calling an infinite data pool, or data garden, I think is what they call it. You're going to create all kinds of new opportunities. There'll be a standardization of what work items are, and then you can apply all kinds of things to them to really understand what's going on. So that's the long-term vision. I think, like you said, there's going to be a lot of work in that direction, and that's going to bring some really new and interesting results. Everything from how people interact with these tools and technologies on a daily basis to how the reporting comes out, how more advanced things like artificial intelligence will be able to mine this and be able to make predictive analysis and make recommendations and do things that were never before possible. So it's an exciting new world in the work management space, I think.
It is, Mike. And I kind of to circle back what you were talking about earlier in the call. I mean, here we are in our home offices, using technology to do work and to get things done. I just want to throw it out there. There's a lot of people that are out in the community, logistics folks, people working at the grocery store, your local hardware store, in school systems across this country, that their job is not to work from home, and they're out there in the community supporting all of us and making sure that key essential businesses are staying open. So I just want to shout it out to everybody that's doing that across the world.
Yeah, that's great. Those people really are literally keeping us all alive, right? Everything from production to truckers, all the people you mentioned, the first line health workers, everyone. So they're doing the work that is keeping us going.
Yep, that's for sure.
And those of us who can work from home need to do our part to keep commerce going and support them as well. So it's all one big economic engine, and all these pieces are tied together. So it's important stuff.
It is, Mike. It is, and it all brings it all home to, I think, a lot of the folks maybe in an office setting, kind of, we almost take those folks for granted. I don't think we'll ever do that again.
No, never.
So until next time, this is episode 1 of the Are You Done Yet podcast. Are you done yet, Mike?
I think we're done today.
Are we done? Yeah, I think we're done.
All right, Brian.
Until
awesome.
next time.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, until next time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.